My name is Bethany Strelo, 26 years old, and I'm a paramedic supervisor at Seattle Fire Department. 9 years ago, I wasn't a paramedic. I was just a 17-year-old girl who knew CPR and used it to save her 14-year-old brother from drowning. 4 minutes of chest compressions, 4 minutes between his life and death. My parents threw me out anyway. My brother told the police I was the one who gave him alcohol. He lied because he was scared. My parents believed him because it was easier than admitting their son almost died on their watch. When I said I could prove my innocence with fingerprint evidence, my mother's response was cold. "You'll be back begging in a month." I didn't cry. I left and never looked back. They didn't know I'd spend the next 9 years responding to 223 emergency calls, saving strangers' lives because my own family wouldn't acknowledge I'd saved one of theirs. But when my phone lit up with 22 missed calls at 3 a.m., I knew something had gone catastrophically wrong. This is the story of what happens when the person you save becomes the person you can't. Let me take you back to where it started, a Saturday in August 2016, and the worst day of my life disguised as a rescue. It was our annual family lake trip, Lake Tapps, Washington. My parents packed the cooler with sandwiches and beer. My brother Everett bounced around like he always did when we went somewhere he could show off. He was 14 that summer. I was 17, working as a lifeguard at the community pool, which meant my parents trusted me to watch him. "Bethany, keep an eye on your brother," my mom said, spreading out the beach blanket. "You're the lifeguard. You know what to do." "He's 14, Mom. He knows how to swim." "Just watch him. You know how he is." I knew exactly how he was. Everett was the baby of the family, the one who got everything he wanted because he knew how to work our parents, the one who'd never met a rule he couldn't bend if he smiled the right way. But that day, I wasn't thinking about any of that. I was sitting on the sand with a book about EMT training, something I'd been researching for months. I wanted to do more than save people from drowning at a public pool. I wanted to show up when it really mattered. I glanced up every few minutes. Everett was fine, paddling around in the orange kayak, showing off for some girls on the shore. He'd started the day wearing a life vest. He'd taken it off within 10 minutes because, in his words, "It's for little kids." My dad was drinking beer with the neighbors. The cooler sat open on the sand, condensation dripping down the sides. A dozen people scattered around the beach, kids splashing in the shallows, someone's dog barking at the ducks. Normal, perfect, safe. I turned a page in my book. The kayak wobbled. Then it didn't wobble anymore, it flipped. I looked up. The kayak was upside down, bright orange against the dark water. Everett wasn't beside it. He wasn't surfacing. 6 seconds. That's how long I watched before my training kicked in. I dropped the book. I ran. I didn't yell for my dad. I didn't wait for someone else to react. I just moved. The water hit me like ice, 68 degrees, cold enough to shock the breath out of my lungs. I kicked hard, eyes open underwater even though the visibility was terrible. Murky green darkness, sediment swirling. My hand hit something. Fabric. His shirt. I grabbed it and pulled. Everett was heavier than I expected, about 120 pounds of dead weight, and I was only 135 myself. But adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I kicked harder, dragged him up, broke the surface gasping. "Call 911!" someone screamed from the shore. I couldn't answer. I was already swimming, one arm hooked under Everett's chin, the other stroking hard toward the beach. 40 feet felt like a mile. When we hit the shallows, I dragged him onto the sand. Someone's dad helped me pull him the last few feet. He wasn't breathing, his lips were blue. Water dripped from his hair, from his nose, from his mouth that hung open like he'd been caught mid-scream. And for one terrible second, I thought, I'm too late. Then my training overrode my fear. Airway. Tilt his head back. Check for obstructions. Clear. Breathing. No chest rise. No air moving. I started CPR. 2 rescue breaths first, watching his chest rise. Then compressions. 30 of them, 2 inches deep, fast, the rhythm they taught us in class. the beat of Stayin' Alive, running through my head like the world's most ironic soundtrack. Someone was timing it. I could hear them counting. 1 minute, 2 minutes. My mom was screaming Everett's name. My dad was just standing there, frozen, his beer can still in his hand. I didn't stop. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 3 minutes, someone said. Should we? I'm not stopping, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded calm, controlled, like I did this every day. Keat, 30 compressions. My arms were shaking. 2 breaths. His chest rose and fell with my air, not his. At 3 minutes and 40 seconds, Everett coughed. Water exploded from his mouth. He turned his head and vomited lake water all over my shirt and started crying. I'd never been so happy to be thrown up on in my life. The ambulance arrived at 3:51 p.m., exactly 4 minutes after I'd started CPR. The paramedics took over, checked his vitals, loaded him onto a stretcher. One of them, a woman with kind eyes, squeezed my shoulder. "You saved his life," she said. "Good work, kid." I nodded. I couldn't speak. The adrenaline was draining out of me, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. At the hospital, they kept Everett for 2 days. Aspiration pneumonia, the doctor said he'd inhaled some water, and his lungs needed monitoring. But he was stable. He was alive. Dr. Patel pulled my parents aside in the hallway. I was sitting in a plastic chair just outside Everett's room, close enough to hear. "Your daughter saved his life," Dr. Patel said. "Another 30 seconds, we'd be looking at brain damage. Another minute, we'd be having a very different conversation." My dad nodded. He didn't look at me. "We're just grateful he's okay," my mom said. "Not grateful to Bethany. Just grateful. Like it was luck, not CPR, that brought Everett back. But I didn't need thanks. I'd done what needed to be done. That was enough. Or so I thought until exactly 7 days later, when everything I'd done stopped mattering. It was a Thursday. August 18th, 2016. 3 days after Everett came home from the hospital. 2 police officers knocked on our door at 4:30 in the afternoon. Officer Daniels and Officer Kim. They were polite, professional, just following up on what they called a routine matter related to the incident at Lake Tapps. Routine. That should have been my first clue. They'd recovered the kayak from the lake. Inside it, they'd found 4 beer cans, Coors Light. And because Everett was 14, a minor who'd nearly died with alcohol in his system, they needed to know where he'd gotten the beer. They asked to speak with Everett first. My parents sat on either side of him on the couch, a united front. I stood in the kitchen doorway, listening. "Everett," Officer Daniels said gently, "where did you get the beer?" Everett's hands were shaking. He looked at my parents, then at the floor. My sister gave it to me." The words hung in the air like smoke. Officer Daniels wrote something in his notebook. "Bethany gave you alcohol?" Everett nodded. His voice was barely a whisper. "She said it was okay, just a little bit." I felt the entire room turn against me before I even walked in. "That's not true," I said from the doorway. My mom's head snapped toward me. "Bethany." "I didn't give him anything," I said. I kept my voice calm, level, the way I'd kept it during CPR. "I was reading a book. The cooler was by the adults. I didn't touch the beer." "She's lying," my mom said. Her voice was tight, controlled, the voice she used when she was furious but trying to hide it in front of company. Officer Daniels looked at me. "Did you provide alcohol to your brother?" "No, I'm 17, I'm a lifeguard. I don't drink, and I definitely don't give alcohol to my 14-year-old brother." "Everett wouldn't lie about this," my mom said. "Then test the cans," I said. "Check the fingerprints. Mine won't be on them." My dad stood up. "Officers, our daughter has always been difficult. She likes to make things complicated." Difficult. That's what they called me when I asked questions they didn't want to answer, when I pointed out things that were unfair, when I refused to just smile and let things go. Officer Daniels held up a hand. We'll be taking the cans for fingerprint analysis. Standard procedure. Results should be back in 3 to 5 business days. He looked at me, then at my parents, then at Everett, who still wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. We'll be in touch when the lab results come back. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought science would speak louder than Everett's lie. I was wrong. The next 4 days were the longest of my life. My parents stopped talking to me. Not completely, they still said things like, "Pass the salt," at dinner, but the real conversations, the ones that mattered, stopped cold. They'd whisper in their bedroom, stop talking when I walked into a room, look at me like I was a stranger who'd broken into their house. Everett wouldn't make eye contact. He'd duck his head and disappear into his room whenever I came near. I went to work my lifeguard shifts at the pool, Friday 2 to 8 p.m., Saturday 10 to 4, Sunday noon to 6. I saved every penny of my $11.50 an hour paycheck, $207 for 18 hours of work. It wasn't much, but it was mine. At night, I researched emancipation laws for minors in Washington state, just in case. On Sunday night, I emailed Officer Daniels. "Any update on the fingerprint results?" He replied, "Monday morning. Results expected today. We'll be in touch." At 3:47 p.m. he called. "Can your family come down to the station at 4 o'clock? We have the lab results." I knew the results would clear me. I knew science didn't lie. What I didn't know was that my parents would choose Everett's story over forensic evidence anyway. Officer Daniels. He laid a folder on the table. "I'm going to need to see your license and registration," he said. "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for it." "I'm sorry, but I don't have either of those with me." "That's fine," he said. "I'll just have to take your word for Officer Daniels." He laid a folder on the table between us. "The fingerprint analysis is complete," he said. He opened the folder and turned it so we could all see. "The cans were tested. We found prints from 3 people." He pointed to the first set of results. "Gerald Strelo. Your prints, sir, were on 3 of the 4 cans." My dad's face went red. "Everett Strelo. Your prints were on all 4 cans." Everett stared at the table. "Bethany Strelo." Officer Daniels looked at me. "Your prints are not on any of the containers. 0 matches." The word 0 echoed in my head like a victory bell. "The evidence is conclusive," Officer Daniels said. "Bethany did not handle the alcohol. Everett took the beer from his father's cooler." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "I told you." My mom turned to Everett. "Is this true? You took your father's beer?" Everett's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, I was scared. I thought I'd get in trouble." "So you blamed your sister?" My dad's voice was quiet, dangerous. Everett started crying, full sobs, the kind that shook his shoulders. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I waited for my parents to turn to me, to apologize, to acknowledge that I'd told the truth, and they'd chosen not to believe me. Instead, my mom turned to me with cold eyes. "You should have been watching him better." The words hit me like a slap. "I saved his life," I said slowly. "I did CPR for 4 minutes. He's alive because of me." "And he almost died because you weren't paying attention," my dad said. Officer Daniels cleared his throat. "For the record, based on witness statements and the timeline, Bethany responded immediately and appropriately. Her actions saved Everett's life. There's no evidence of negligence." He closed the folder. "I'm noting in my report that no charges are recommended against Bethany Strelo. This is a family matter regarding alcohol access by a minor." He gave me 2 copies of the report. "For your records," he said quietly. The drive home took 23 minutes. No one spoke. When we pulled into the driveway, my mom turned around in her seat. "We need to talk. Inside. Now." The living room felt smaller than usual. My parents stood by the fireplace. Everett had disappeared upstairs. I could see him watching from the landing, half hidden behind the banister. "You embarrassed your brother in front of the police," my mom said. "He lied," I said. "He blamed me for something I didn't do. The police proved I was innocent." "You made him look like a liar," my dad said. "He is a liar. He lied to protect himself and threw me under the bus." My mom's jaw tightened. "This family doesn't work if we don't trust each other." "I told the truth," I said. My voice was rising now, heat flooding my chest. "I saved his life. I told you I didn't give him alcohol. The forensic report proved it. What more do you want?" "We want you to stop tearing this family apart," my dad said. The words didn't make sense. I stared at him. "I'm tearing it apart? I saved Everett's life. He lied about me. And somehow I'm the problem?" My mom crossed her arms. "Maybe it's best if you spend some time away. Cool off. Think about what's important." "What's important is the truth." "What's important is family," my dad said. I looked at both of them, at the cold set of their faces, at the way they stood together, a wall I couldn't penetrate. "Fine," I said. "If family means lying for each other, then I don't want it." My mom's smile was thin and cruel. "You'll be back begging in a month. You can't make it on your own." Something in me went very still, very cold. "Watch me." My dad's face turned to stone. He pointed at the door. "Then go. Get out." I went upstairs. I packed my backpack clothes, phone charger, my lifeguard certification, the $207 cash I'd saved, and both copies of the police report. Everything that proved who I was and what I'd done. When I came back down, my dad was standing at the door. He opened it. "Don't come back until you apologize to your brother." "I didn't do anything wrong." He slammed the door in my face. The sound echoed down the street, loud enough that Mrs. Chen across the street looked out her window, her face creased with concern. I stood on the porch for 10 seconds, waiting to see if they'd open the door, waiting for Everett to run out and tell the truth. The lights went off one by one. First the living room, then the kitchen, then upstairs. My family, shutting me out in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't knock. I picked up my backpack, walked 3 blocks to the bus stop, and made myself a promise. I would never need them again. And I never did. The first year was survival. I stayed with Jenna Kowalski's family for 3 months. Jenna was on the lifeguard team with me. Her mom, Mrs. Kowalski, didn't ask too many questions when I showed up with a backpack and a story about needing some space from my parents. "You can stay as long as you need, honey," Mrs. Kowalski said. "Thank you. I'll be out by December. I promise." I kept that promise. On November 30th, 2016, I moved into a basement studio in Renton. It was dark and smelled like mildew and cost $650 a month, but it was mine. I worked 2 jobs: lifeguard during the day, grocery store cashier at night. I took my GED test in October and scored 780 out of 800. Near perfect. Good enough to get into the EMT program at community college. The course cost $1,200. I paid in cash. On my 18th birthday, February 14th, 2017, I checked my phone. No calls, no texts, no happy birthday from my parents or my brother. I bought myself a cupcake from the grocery store bakery. Chocolate with vanilla frosting. I stuck a single candle in it, lit it with a lighter I'd borrowed from a coworker, and made a wish. I wished that one day, my parents would regret what they'd done. I didn't know if wishes came true, but I knew how to work, so I did. I got my EMT certification in June 2017, passed the practical exam on the first try, which only 60% of people do. I was 18 years old and qualified to save lives. The private ambulance company hired me immediately. The pay wasn't great, $15 an hour, but the work was everything I'd hoped it would be. Car accidents, heart attacks, diabetic emergencies, overdoses, and yes, drownings. Every call taught me something. How to stay calm when everyone else was panicking. How to move fast without fumbling. How to read a scene in 3 seconds and know what needed to happen next. I was good at it. Better than good. In 2018, I applied to the paramedic program at North Seattle College. 60 people applied. 20 got in. I was number 7. The next 2 years were brutal. Classes during the day, clinical rotations at night, studying whenever I had 5 minutes to breathe. I did 500 hours of training in the Harborview Medical Center ER, watching people live and die based on seconds and decisions. The program cost $8,500. I paid for it with student loans, picked up extra shifts, and ate ramen for dinner more nights than I can count. But in May 2020, at 21 years old, I graduated. Top 15% of my class. I passed the National Registry Paramedic exam on the first try, and only 72% of people do. Seattle Fire Department hired me 2 weeks later. My first paycheck was $4,890 a month. It felt like a fortune. My first water rescue call came 3 months into the job. Engine 5, respond to 4521 Greenwood Avenue. Child in pool, not breathing. I jumped out of the ambulance before it fully stopped. A woman was screaming on the front lawn. A man was doing CPR on a small body by the side of the pool. Bad CPR. All wrong. Too slow. Not deep enough. I didn't think about Everett. I didn't think about my parents. I just moved. I took over compressions. 30, hard and fast. 2 breaths. The kid was maybe 6 years old. Blue lips. No pulse. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 3. At 3 minutes and 12 seconds, he coughed. Water came up. He started breathing. The mother collapsed beside me, sobbing, grabbing my hands. Thank you. Oh God. Thank you. I nodded. I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking. But as I loaded the kid into the ambulance and heard his mother say thank you over and over, I thought, this is why I'm here. Not for the thanks. For the moment when someone who wasn't breathing starts breathing again. For the 4 minutes that make all the difference. Over the next 3 years, I became the paramedic who didn't panic. I took extra training in swift water rescue, learned the basics of dive team operations, volunteered for every water call that came through dispatch. By 2022, I was a senior paramedic. By 2023, I was training rookies. And in June of that year, I saved a family of 3 from a car that had gone off the road into Lake Washington. The news picked it up. Seattle Times ran an article with my picture soaking wet, exhausted, grinning like an idiot, because all 3 people were alive. Local paramedics' heroism saves family, the headline read. They interviewed me, asked me what went through my mind when I saw the car sinking. You don't think, I said. You move. Hesitation kills, action saves. The article went mini viral. 12,000 shares on local Facebook. The Seattle Fire Department gave me a Medal of Valor. I knew my parents would see it. Tacoma and Seattle are only 35 miles apart. We have mutual friends, people who would send them the link with a, "Did you see this about Bethany?" I wondered if they'd call. They didn't, and I told myself I didn't care. Mostly I believed it. In March 2024, I got promoted to supervisor, Station 5, managing a team of 8 paramedics and EMTs. My salary jumped to $89,400 a year. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Fremont. Hardwood floors, big windows, a kitchen where I could actually cook. Rent was $2,100 a month, and I could afford it without stress. I had friends, a gym routine, weekend hikes in the Cascades, a life. But I was still single, still kept people at arm's length, still had trust issues that went all the way back to a police station in 2016, and parents who chose a lie over their daughter. My therapist, I'd started seeing one, said it was normal. "You're protecting yourself," she said. "That's not weakness, that's survival." I didn't tell her about the police report I still kept in a fireproof safe, or the fact that sometimes, late at night, I'd Google my parents' names just to see if anything came up. I didn't tell her that in April 2021, my brother had sent me an Instagram DM. The message came out of nowhere. I was scrolling through my phone after a shift, half asleep, when I saw the notification. Everett_Strelo wants to send you a message. I stared at it for a full minute before I opened it. "I lied because I was scared. You saved my life and I got you kicked out. I'm so sorry." My hands were shaking. I read it 3 times. Then I typed back, "I forgive you, but I can't come back until they acknowledge the truth." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I understand. Can we still talk? Just us?" I stared at those words. My little brother, the one who'd lied, the one I'd saved, the one I hadn't seen in 5 years. Yes, always. We talked after that. Not often, every 2 or 3 months. He'd send me updates about his life, community college, part-time jobs, struggling to figure out what he wanted to do. I'd send him updates about mine, promotions, difficult calls, the Medal of Valor. In 2023, he told me he'd come to one of my talks, a community presentation on water safety I did at Seattle Central College. He'd sat in the back row where I wouldn't see him. "You were amazing," he texted afterward. "I'm proud of you." I cried when I read that, alone in my apartment, holding my phone, crying over 4 words from my brother. We never told our parents. Everett said if they knew, they'd make him choose between them and me again. "I can't lose you twice," he wrote. So we kept it secret. Coffee meetups in Tacoma or Seattle, neutral ground where we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. Texts about work and life and nothing important. A relationship built in the margins of our real lives. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. The last text I got from him was in November 2025. "Going to a party tonight. Wish you were here to tell me not to do anything stupid." I texted back immediately. "Be safe. Text me when you're home." He never texted me back. By December 2025, I'd been a paramedic supervisor for almost 2 years. I had an apartment I loved, a job I was good at, and a life my parents knew nothing about. I'd saved 223 lives in documented emergency responses. 14 of those were water rescues, drownings, or near drownings, where I'd pulled someone from a pool or a lake or Puget Sound and brought them back. Every single time, I thought about Everett, about the 4 minutes that had made me who I was, about the way water looks when someone's under it, not moving, not surfacing. I wondered if he ever thought about me, if he remembered that day at Lake Tapps, if he told people his sister had saved his life, or if that was another secret he kept. I got my answer at 2:58 a.m. on December 12th, when my phone started ringing and didn't stop. I was asleep, deep sleep, the kind you only get after a late shift that ends with everyone surviving. I'd gotten off work at 11 p.m., made it home by midnight, collapsed into bed at 12:30. The phone pulled me out of sleep like a hook. I grabbed it, squinting at the screen in the dark. Mom cell? I stared at it. My mother, who hadn't called me in 9 years. The call went to voicemail. Immediately the phone rang again. Mom cell. I didn't answer. I couldn't move. My brain was trying to catch up, trying to understand why she was calling it. I checked the clock, 2:58 in the morning. The phone rang again, and again, and again. By 3:15 a.m., I had 22 missed calls, 13 from my mom, 6 from my dad, 3 from a number I didn't recognize. Then the text started. The preview showed on my lock screen. Your brother was... That's all I could see. The message cut off. I sat up. My heart was pounding now, adrenaline flooding my system the way it did when the dispatch tones went off. I opened the text. Your brother was found in a pool. He's dying. The doctor said if someone did CPR sooner, please come. We need you. I read it twice. 3 times. Everett. Pool. Dying. My hands moved on autopilot. I got dressed. Jeans, my paramedic jacket, the one with Seattle FD Supervisor Strelo embroidered on the chest. Keys, wallet, phone. I didn't call them back. I didn't text. I just got in my car and drove. I-5 South at 3:30 a.m. is empty. Just me and the occasional semi-truck hauling freight through the darkness. 35 miles from Seattle to Tacoma should have taken 35 minutes. It took 47 because I was driving on autopilot, my brain spinning through possibilities. ICU means critical, life-threatening. If it was minor, they'd have texted, not called 22 times. What happened to him? The text said, found in a pool. Drowning? Accident? How long was he under? And why after 9 years of silence did they think I'd come? Because I'm a paramedic. Because I save people. Because they know I will. The thought made me angry. They'd thrown me out, told me I was tearing the family apart. Chosen Everett's lie over forensic proof. And now they needed me. Part of me wanted to turn around, let them deal with it, let them sit in that ICU and know what it felt like to be powerless. But a louder voice, the one that made me a paramedic, said, someone needs help, that's all that matters. I listened to the louder voice. St. Joseph Medical Center loomed out of the darkness at 4:43 a.m. I parked in the visitor lot, spot C47, and walked through the automatic doors. The night shift clerk looked up. Can I help you? ICU floor 4, Everett Strelo. She typed something into her computer. Her face changed. Just a flicker, but I saw it. The expression that meant bad news. Take the elevator to 4. Someone at the nurse station will help you. I took the stairs. Needed to move, needed to burn off the adrenaline that was making my hands shake. Floor 4 was quiet. ICU quiet, the kind where every sound is a monitor beeping, a ventilator whooshing, the soft squeak of nurse shoes on linoleum. I buzzed at the locked double doors. A nurse let me in. I'm Bethany Strelo, I said. I'm here about Everett Strelo. I'm family. I'm also a paramedic with Seattle Fire. The nurse's name tag said Angela. She had kind eyes and a tired face. Room 417, she said. Your parents are with him. Dr. Okonkwo is on shift. She'll be by soon. I'm very sorry. Sorry. That word again. The one that meant bad news. What's his condition? Angela hesitated. The doctor will explain, but... You should prepare yourself. I nodded. Professional mode sliding into place like armor. Room 417. Door cracked open. Light spilling into the hallway. I could hear it before I saw it, the ventilator, whooshing and clicking in steady rhythm. The monitor beeping. Someone crying softly. I stood outside at 4:47 a.m., still in my paramedic jacket, and made myself a promise. I would walk in there as a medical professional, not as the daughter they threw away. I would help if I could, but I wouldn't forget what they'd done. The door was cracked open. I could hear my mother crying. I heard the ventilator. And I knew before I even saw him that Everett was dying. I took a breath, and I walked in. The first thing I saw was Everett. He was on the bed, and he looked small, smaller than I remembered, thinner. He was intubated, a breathing tube down his throat, taped in place, connected to a ventilator that was breathing for him because he couldn't breathe for himself. IVs in both arms. Monitors everywhere, displaying numbers I could read automatically from years of training. Heart rate, 62. Blood pressure, 98/54. Oxygen saturation, 94%, but only because the machine was doing the work. His face was bruised, dark purple along his left cheekbone, like he'd hit the pool deck when they pulled him out. His skin was pale, almost gray, hospital gown hanging off his shoulders. He looked like a stranger, and he looked exactly like my little brother. My parents were there. My dad slumped in a chair by the window, unshaven, eyes hollow. My mom standing beside the bed, holding Everett's hand. Mascara streaked down her face. They looked up when I came in, froze. "Bethany," my mom whispered. "I'm here," I said. My voice was flat, professional. "What happened?" My dad stood up, unsteady, like he'd aged 10 years in the last 10 hours. "You came. I didn't think we didn't know if—" "What happened?" I said again. Not a question, a command. My mom's voice broke. "He was at a party, Friday night, in Seattle on Capitol Hill. We didn't know he was going until the police called at 1 a.m. She took a shaking breath. "They found him in the pool, in the backyard. He wasn't breathing. Someone tried CPR, but they didn't. They said people were panicking and it was dark and—" Her voice dissolved into sobs. My dad picked up the story. "The ambulance got there at 12:04. The paramedic said he'd been underwater for at least 8 minutes before someone pulled him out." 8 minutes. The number hit me like a fist. I walked to the foot of the bed, looked at the monitors, looked at my brother. And how long before someone who actually knew CPR started compressions? My dad's face crumpled. The paramedic said, "Maybe 4 minutes of effective CPR by the time they arrived." 8 minutes underwater. 4 minutes of fumbling, panicked attempts at rescue. 13 minutes total before his brain started getting real oxygen again. "Jesus," I whispered. I looked at Everett, at the ventilator breathing for him, at the way his chest rose and fell mechanically, no effort, no life. At 4 minutes, I'd saved him. At 8 minutes, someone else had tried and failed. "What did toxicology show?" I asked. My mom looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "The drug test," I said. "They would have run one. What was in his system?" "Fentanyl," my dad said quietly. "And alcohol. They said he probably took a pill he thought was something else. It was laced." Fentanyl. The killer that looked like Xanax or Oxy or Percocet until you stopped breathing. Blood alcohol? 0.11. Drunk and high. In a pool. At night. "Has he woken up at all?" I asked. I already knew the answer, but I had to ask. "No," my mom said. "The doctor said—" She said there's brain damage from the oxygen loss. She said he might never wake up. The ventilator whooshed. The monitor beeped. And I stood there, looking at my brother. The brother I'd saved 9 years ago. The brother who'd lied to protect himself. The brother I hadn't seen in person since I was 17. He looked small. He looked broken. And I couldn't save him this time. The door opened. A woman in a white coat came in, Dr. Okonkwo, according to her name badge. She was maybe 40, with tired eyes, and the kind of calm that came from delivering bad news too many times. "You must be Bethany," she said, extending a hand. "Your mother mentioned you might come." I shook it. "I'm a paramedic, Seattle Fire. Can you walk me through his status?" Something shifted in her face. Recognition. professional to professional. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy, she said. Brain injury from prolonged oxygen deprivation. We're seeing minimal activity on EEG. The MRI shows widespread damage to the cortex and basal ganglia. My mother made a small sound. She didn't understand the words. I translated. That means the parts of his brain that control thinking, movement, and awareness are damaged, severely. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. Even if he survives, quality of life will be profoundly limited. We're talking possible persistent vegetative state. He may never regain consciousness. Is there any chance he'll wake up? My mother asked. Her voice was desperate, pleading. There's always a chance, Dr. Okonkwo said gently. But I'd be misleading you if I said it was likely. The damage is extensive. She looked at me. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, I said. I've seen this before. I had. 14 water rescues in 9 years. Not all of them ended well. The ones who were down too long, they came back as bodies with beating hearts, not people. We'll need to discuss goals of care in the next 48 to 72 hours, Dr. Okonkwo said. But I'll give you time with him first. She left. The ventilator kept breathing, the monitors kept beeping. My mother turned to me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. My mother, begging. You're a paramedic, she said. You save people. Can you save him, please? And for the first time in 9 years, I had something they needed. Power. I could have said no. Could have walked out. Could have let them sit in their nightmare alone the way they'd left me alone on that porch 9 years ago. Instead, I told her the truth. I can't save him. No one can. 8 minutes is too long. My mother collapsed into the chair, sobbing. My father stared at me. There's something you should know. He pulled out a phone. Everett's phone. I recognized the cracked case. The police gave this to us yesterday. They'd unlocked it, got his passcode from his wallet. We were looking through it, trying to understand what happened, and we saw... He swallowed. We saw your name. He handed me the phone. Instagram was open, direct messages, my username at the top. 47 conversations, starting in April 2021, ending in November 2025. I scrolled, saw my words, saw his. I lied because I was scared. You saved my life and I got you kicked out. I'm sorry. I forgive you. But I can't come back until they acknowledge the truth. Can we still talk? Just us? Yes, always. My hands were shaking. We didn't know, my mother whispered. All this time, you two were talking, for 4 years, and we had no idea. I kept scrolling. Got promoted at work. You're the first person I wanted to tell. Went to your talk at Seattle Central. Sat in back. You were amazing. Wish you were here to tell me not to do anything stupid. That was the last message. November 2025. The party. My reply. Be safe. Text me when you're home. He never texted me back, because 8 minutes later, he was underwater. I looked up at my parents, at their shocked faces, at the evidence of a relationship they'd never known about. He apologized 4 years ago, I said quietly. And I forgave him. We've been talking ever since. Meeting for coffee. He came to my presentations. He was proud of me. Why didn't he tell us? My dad asked. I laughed. It came out bitter. Because you made him choose once, between telling the truth and keeping you happy. He chose wrong the first time. He wasn't going to make that mistake again. My mother held out the phone like it was proof of something. He never stopped talking about you. No, I said. He just did it in secret, because he was too afraid to do it out loud. I handed the phone back. I wasn't here to save Everett, I said. I'm here to witness what happens when you wait too long to tell the truth. They moved us to a family conference room at 6:15 a.m. Small table, tissue box, whiteboard with Everett's medical timeline written in dry erase marker. Day 3, post-arrest. No neurological improvement. Dr. Okonkwo came back with reinforcements. Dr. Brennan, the ICU attending. Maureen, a palliative care nurse practitioner. James, a social worker. 7 people around a table to decide if my brother would live or die. I know this is incredibly difficult, Maureen said. Her voice was gentle, practiced. But we need to talk about what comes next. And to do that, we need to understand. What would Everett want? My parents looked at each other, lost. He never talked about this, my dad said. He's 23. We never thought. We don't know, my mother whispered. James, the social worker, leaned forward. Did he ever express wishes about medical care? About quality of life versus quantity of life? Silence. Then I spoke. I do. Everyone turned to look at me. In our messages, I said. He talked about watching me build a life without family approval. He said he admired that I chose freedom over obligation. He said he wished he could be brave like that. I pulled up the message on the phone. March 2024. You left and built something real. I'm still here, stuck, pretending. If something ever happens to me, I hope I get a choice. I hope I'm not just kept alive because it's easier than letting go. My mother made a sound like she'd been punched. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. That's very helpful context. It suggests Everett valued autonomy and quality of life. Maureen nodded. With the level of brain injury we're seeing, even if he survives, he won't have autonomy. He won't have the life he described wanting. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. So what are you saying? That we should give up on him? Not give up, Dr. Okonkwo said. Let go. There's a difference. She looked at me. The paramedic. The one who'd seen this before. The one who knew. You've responded to calls like this, she said. You've seen hypoxic brain injuries. What's your professional opinion? I took a breath, switched fully into clinical mode. I've responded to 14 water rescues in 9 years, I said. I've seen outcomes across the spectrum. 4 minutes like Everett in 2016 usually means full recovery if CPR is effective. 6 minutes. There's often damage but potential for rehabilitation. I paused. 8 minutes is a different category. The brain can't survive that long without oxygen and come back whole. Dr. Brennan nodded. That aligns with what we're seeing on imaging. I kept going. In my experience, families who choose aggressive care in cases like this often spend years watching someone they love exist but not live. Machines breathe. Feeding tubes provide nutrition, but the person they knew is gone. I looked at my parents. In 2022, I responded to a call to a 19-year-old kid, pool drowning, 7 minutes down. The family chose long-term care. I ran into the mother last year at a support group I spoke at. The kid's still in a facility, no awareness, no improvement. She told me, I wish I'd let him go when he was still my son, not a body in a bed. My mother was crying, full body-shaking sobs. But what if he wakes up, she said. What if there's a chance? Dr. Okonkwo's voice was kind but firm. There's always a statistical chance, but I'd estimate less than 5% probability of any meaningful recovery and less than 1% probability of functional independence. The numbers hung in the air like stones. My father asked the question I knew was coming. Bethany, you're his sister. You saved him once. Can you save him again? And I had to look him in the eye and say the words that would break him. No, I can't. No one can. The Everett we knew is already gone. The silence lasted 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then Maureen spoke. I want to talk about comfort care, she said. It's an option that focuses on dignity and peace rather than prolonging. She explained it. Remove the breathing tube, provide medication for pain and anxiety, allow natural death. No machines, no interventions, just family and time and letting go. How long? My mother asked. It varies. Some patients breathe independently for hours or even days. Some pass within minutes. We can't predict. But you'll be with him. I added my voice, quiet, certain. In my career, I've seen families wait too long to make this call. They think more time is better. But more time on machines isn't more time with the person you love. It's more time watching them not come back. My dad looked at my mom. They had a whole conversation in that look. 9 years of marriage compressed into 10 seconds. We should do it, my dad said. We should let him go. My mother turned to me. Do you agree? I thought about Everett, about the messages, about I hope I get a choice. Yes, I said, I do. My mother nodded. Once. Final. Okay, she whispered. Comfort care. Dr. Okonkwo stood. We'll schedule extubation for 8 a.m. That gives you just over an hour. I'll have the chaplain stop by if you'd like. No, my mother said. Just us. Just family. Dr. Okonkwo looked at me. You're staying? Until the end, I said. She nodded. For what it's worth, I think you're making the compassionate choice. I'm sorry it had to be this hard. She left. And it was just the three of us again, me, my mother, my father, about to watch Everett die, the brother I saved at 17, the brother I couldn't save at 26. And between us, 9 years of silence and 1 hour to say everything we should have said before it was too late. We went back to room 417. Everett was exactly as we'd left him. Ventilator breathing, monitors beeping, unchanged. I pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down, reached out and took his hand. It was the first time I'd touched him in 9 years. His hand was warm, bigger than I remembered. He was 23 now, not 14. A man, not a kid. But his hand was limp. No grip, no response. My mother started to speak. Bethany, we need to talk about... Not now, I said, gentle but firm. Right now, we're here for Everett. Everything else can wait. She closed her mouth, nodded. I turned back to my brother. Hey, little brother, I said softly. It's me, Bethany. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm here. I'm right here. The ventilator whooshed, 14 breaths per minute, mechanical, steady. I talked to him, told him about the lake, about how cold the water was, about how he'd thrown up on my shirt and I'd never been happier to be covered in vomit. You were always getting into trouble, I said, always pushing boundaries. I used to think it was annoying. Now I think it was just you trying to figure out who you were. My parents stood by the window, not talking, just listening. At 7:53 a.m., there was a soft knock. A woman in scrubs came in, Lisa, the respiratory therapist. We're ready when you are, she said. My mother made a sound, half sob, half gasp. My father nodded. I squeezed Everett's hand one more time. Okay, I said. Lisa explained the process quickly, professional, kind. I'm going to suction his airway, deflate the cuff on the tube, and remove it. It'll be quick. He may cough or gag. That's normal. After the tube's out, we'll provide oxygen through a mask if he's breathing on his own. She looked at my parents. You can stay or step out. Whatever feels right. We're staying, my dad said. I was already staying. Lisa worked efficiently. Suction first, a horrible wet sound that made my mother turn away, then her hands on the tube. Deflating the cuff, removing on 3. 1, 2, 3. The tube slid out. Everett's mouth opened, his jaw went slack, then a gasp. My mother lurched forward. He's breathing. He's... Dr. Okonkwo, who'd come in to observe, put a gentle hand on my mother's arm. That's agonal breathing, she said quietly. Reflexive. It doesn't mean awareness. I knew what agonal breathing was. I'd seen it before. The brainstem's last attempt to survive, sending desperate signals to the lungs even when the higher brain was gone. Gasp, pause, gasp. Not regular, not sustainable. Just the body, struggling. Nurse Angela placed an oxygen mask over Everett's face. A comfort measure, not a treatment. The monitor showed his heart rate dropping. 62, then 54, then 48. I kept holding his hand. Everett gasped again. And again. His chest rose and fell, slower each time. The monitor beeped. Heart rate 44. My mother was crying so hard she couldn't stand. My father held her, his own face wet with tears. And I just sat there, holding my brother's hand, counting his breaths the way I'd counted compressions 9 years ago. Except this time, I wasn't trying to bring him back. I was letting him go. I leaned close, whispered in his ear. I forgive you for lying. I forgave you 4 years ago when you told me the truth. You were just a kid. Scared. I get it. Gasp. Pause. I'm proud of you for reaching out, for keeping us connected, even when it was hard. You were braver than you thought. Gasp. Slower now. You don't have to hold on anymore. It's okay to let go. I'm right here. You're not alone. The monitor showed his heart rate at 32, then 24, then 18. At 8:21 a.m., Everett took a breath. At 8:22 a.m., he didn't take another. The monitor flatlined, a long, piercing tone. Nurse Angela reached over and silenced it. The room went quiet. Dr. Okonkwo stepped forward. She checked his pulse carotid, then radial. Listened to his heart with her stethoscope. Then she straightened and looked at us. Time of death, 8:22 a.m. She removed the oxygen mask gently, straightened Everett's hospital gown, gave him dignity. Take all the time you need, she said softly. I'll be outside if you need anything. She left. Nurse Angela followed, the door closed, and my baby brother was gone. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. My father knelt beside the bed, his hand on Everett's shoulder, crying silently. I sat there, still holding Everett's hand. I'd held this hand at the lake 9 years ago when I pulled him back to life. Now I held it as I let him go. I leaned forward and closed his eyes. Gently. The way I'd done for other patients, other families, other deaths. You're free now, I whispered. I forgive you. I always did. It was the truth. My mother looked up at me. Her face was destroyed, makeup smeared, eyes red, breath coming in gasps. I'm sorry, she said, for everything. I'm so sorry. I didn't answer. Because sorry doesn't bring back 9 years. Sorry doesn't change what happened. But as I looked at Everett's face, finally at peace, I realized something. This wasn't about my parents anymore. It was about my brother. And I'd given him the one thing he'd asked for in his messages. A choice. He chose to let go. And I chose to be there when he did. That was enough. The funeral was 6 days later. December 18th, 2025. Wednesday afternoon. Kurnow Funeral Chapel in Tacoma. Simple oak casket. Everett would have wanted simple. About 80 people came. Family, friends, co-workers from his various jobs. The program had a photo of Everett smiling. Under it, beloved son, brother, and friend. He lived bravely in small ways and loved fiercely in secret. My mother cried when she read it, but she didn't ask me to change it. Progress. The service was traditional. Pastor Graham gave the eulogy. A few of Everett's co-workers shared memories. My parents spoke briefly. My dad managed 3 sentences before breaking down. I was scheduled to speak last. I'd written my speech the night before, rewritten it 3 times, finally settled on the truth. Because Everett deserved the truth. I walked to the podium. 80 faces looked back at me. Some I recognized. Most I didn't. I took a breath. Most of you know Everett as a coworker, a friend, a son. I knew him as my little brother, the brother I pulled from a lake when I was 17 and did CPR for 4 minutes to save his life. I saw people shift, whisper. They didn't know this story. 1 week later, I was kicked out of my home because Everett lied to protect himself, and my parents believed him over forensic evidence. For 9 years, my family and I didn't speak. My mother's face crumpled. My father stared at his hands. But Everett and I did, in secret. For 4 years, we texted, we met for coffee, we stayed siblings when it wasn't allowed. I pulled out my phone, opened the Instagram message. His last message to me said, "I wish I could talk to my sister." My voice broke slightly. I cleared my throat. "I'm here to say, Everett, I heard you. And I'm still here." I read his apology aloud. The 2021 message. The words he'd typed when he was 20 years old, trying to make something right. "I forgave him years ago. I hope you'll remember him as someone who made mistakes, learned from them, and tried to be better. That's all any of us can do." I stepped down. The room was silent. Then, quietly, someone started clapping. Then another person. Then more. Not loud, not performative. Just acknowledgement. After the service, 12 people approached me, told me thank you for being honest, told me they'd had similar experiences with family. Mrs. Chen, our old neighbor, hugged me. "I always wondered what happened to you," she said. "I'm glad you're okay." In the parking lot, my mother approached me. She held out a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this last night," she said. "I was going to read it, but I couldn't. Will you read it?" I unfolded it. 3 pages. Handwritten. Her shaky script that I recognized from old birthday cards. It started. "To everyone who witnessed what I did to my daughter in 2016, I was wrong." I read it. All 3 pages. Her admission that she'd believed a lie over evidence, that she'd kicked me out, that pride had kept her from reaching out for 9 years. At the bottom, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to try, if you'll let me." I folded the letter, looked at her. "This is a start," I said. "A start? You can't apologize for 9 years in 3 pages, but it's a start." I pulled out my own paper, the one I'd prepared, just in case. "If you want a relationship with me, here are my conditions." I listed them. 1. You attend grief counseling, both of you, for at least 6 months. 2. You take a family addiction education course. Everett died from fentanyl. You need to understand what happened and why. 3. You donate to a cause in Everett's name. Something that helps people the way I wish I could have helped him. 4. For the first 6 months, contact only through a family therapist. No direct calls or texts. When we're ready, we meet in therapy sessions first. My father, who'd been standing a few feet away, came closer. That's a lot," he said. "It's less than you took from me," I said, "but it's what I need to feel safe." They looked at each other, had one of those silent conversations that long-married couples have. Then my mother nodded. "Okay, we'll do it." "All of it," I said. "Not just the easy parts." "All of it," my dad said. I handed them the paper. At the bottom was a line for signatures. They signed. My mother's hand shook. My father cried for the second time that day, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 9 years. Not forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. The possibility that maybe, someday, we could be a family again. A different family. An honest one. It's been a year since Everett died. My parents completed 8 months of grief counseling. They took the addiction education course, a 6-week program that taught them about fentanyl, about pills that look safe but aren't, about how to recognize the signs. They established the Everett Strello Memorial EMT Scholarship. $50,000 from the sale of some investments and their savings. enough to fund full training for 3 people a year. We had our first therapy session in January 2026. Dr. Helena Voss, a specialist in family estrangement, sat between us like a referee. It was awkward, painful. My mother cried through most of it. My father barely spoke. But we showed up. We had 6 sessions over 6 months. Then, in July, we met for dinner. Neutral location, a restaurant neither of us had history with. 1 hour. Supervised by Dr. Voss at a nearby table just in case. We talked about work, about the scholarship recipients, about the weather. We didn't talk about the 9 years, not yet. Since then, we've had dinner once a month. Sometimes I cancel because I'm not ready. They understand. That's new. Last month, November 2026, my mom said something that made me look up from my pasta. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I should have said that 9 years ago, but I'm saying it now." I put down my fork. "You should have, but you're saying it now. That counts for something." It's not perfect. Some months are harder than others. My father still struggles to look me in the eye. My mother still cries when she talks about the 9 years we lost. But we're trying. And that's more than we had before. The scholarship ceremony was last week, December 2026, 1 year and 6 days after Everett died. 3 recipients, 3 people who couldn't afford EMT training on their own, 3 people who will now save lives because my brother's death meant something. Recipient number 1, a single mother, 32, who'd wanted to be a paramedic since high school, but could never afford the $1,200 certification. Recipient number 2, a man in recovery from addiction, 28, who wanted to help people the way EMTs had helped him during his overdoses. Recipient number 3, a 19-year-old kid who'd lost his sister to drowning 2 years ago. I met them at the ceremony, shook their hands, told them about Everett. The 19-year-old looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I wouldn't be here without this scholarship," he said. I thought about Everett, about the messages, about the coffee meetups and the secret photos and the 4 years he spent choosing me when it wasn't easy. "Neither would I said. My parents sat in the back of the room. They didn't make a speech, didn't insert themselves, just watched and cried and clapped when the recipients got their certificates. Afterward, we had coffee, all of us together. The recipients, me, my parents, Dr. Voss. It was strange, uncomfortable in places, but also good. The single mother asked my mom how Everett had died. My mom told her the truth about the party, the fentanyl, the 8 minutes. "I'm sorry," the woman said. "Don't be sorry," my mom said. "Just save lives. That's what he would have wanted." I looked at her, at my mother, who'd thrown me out 9 years ago, who'd chosen a lie over evidence, who'd spent 9 years in the wrong and was now, finally, trying to make it right. She looked back at me. "Was that okay?" she asked quietly. "What I said?" "Yeah," I said. "That was okay." It's December 12th, 2026 now. Exactly 1 year since the phone calls. Since 2:58 a.m. Since I drove to Tacoma and walked into an ICU and watched my brother die. I went to his grave this morning, brought flowers, sat on the grass and talked to him the way I used to via text. Told him about the scholarship recipients, about mom and dad trying, about the dinners that are still awkward but getting easier. "You'd be proud of them," I said to the headstone. "They're doing the work. It's slow, but they're trying." I traced his name with my finger. Everett James Strelo, February 14th, 2002, December 12th, 2025. 23 years. Not enough time. Never enough time. "I miss you," I whispered. "I wish you were here to see this, to see them changing, to see me. I don't know. Healing, maybe." The wind picked up, blew my hair across my face. I stood up, brushed off my jeans. "I'm still here, little brother, still saving lives, still carrying you with me." I walked back to my car. On the drive home, I thought about the police report I'd carried for 9 years. About the 223 people I'd saved. About the 4 minutes at Lake Taps that had defined everything that came after. And I realized I'm not carrying that report anymore. Not because I've forgotten, not because it doesn't matter, but because I don't need it to prove who I am. I know who I am. I'm Bethany Strelo. I'm 27 years old. I'm a paramedic who saves lives because that's who I've always been, whether my family acknowledged it or not. I'm the sister who did CPR for 4 minutes when I was 17. I'm the daughter who left at 17 and built a life anyway. I'm the person who forgave her brother 4 years before he died. I'm the person who held his hand and let him go with dignity when 8 minutes was too long. And I'm the person who's learning slowly, imperfectly, that people can change, that families can heal. That forgiveness doesn't have to mean forgetting, and healing doesn't have to mean fixing everything that was broken. Sometimes it just means trying, and that's enough. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family, if you've ever been the one who told the truth when everyone wanted you to lie, if you've ever saved someone and got punished for it, I see you. Your story matters. Your truth matters. And if you're still carrying your own police report, your own proof that you were right, it's okay to keep carrying it until the day you don't need it anymore. My name is Bethany Strelo. I'm 27 years old. I'm a paramedic, and I'm still here.